Let's do a tour of the new Panasonic LUMIX S5 Mark II, and I'll also compare it against the original S5 and let you know what's been changed. Taking a look at the S5 Mark II next to the original S5 from the front, they both look like they take up the same physical footprint as each other. Turning them to the side is where you'll notice the S5 Mark II is slightly thicker. Weight-wise, the S5 Mark II is only 20 grams heavier than the original, even though the body is a tad chunkier. They still feel quite the same in the hand overall. The first of the S5 Mark II new features is a full-size HDMI port versus the micro HDMI that you can see on the original. This is a massive benefit for anyone using an external monitor or external recorder. Full-size HDMI ports have the advantage of a stronger, more secure connection without needing a dongle or specialty cable like you would with the micro HDMI type. I use external reference monitors here in my studio all of the time, and it's really handy to have a standardized connector on a camera. The second reason the Panasonic S5 Mark II is slightly wider is that it now has an active heat management system. This active cooling fan works in combination with the new unlimited recording capability of the S5 Mark II. This fan keeps the temperature down in heat-challenging environments and for extended recording durations. If you've seen any YouTube videos over the last 2 years, there's been a lot of camera brands and models that overheat very quickly or have short recording durations placed on their video modes. The Panasonic S5 Mark II has neither issue thanks to the active cooling. The intake and exhaust fans are placed on the top of the camera next to the command dials to ensure proper airflow. The active cooling fan is set to automatic by default, but the settings can be adjusted manually depending on your shooting scenario. Panasonic did a great job at cramming in all of these professional features into a compact, full-frame mirrorless camera body. Another major upgrade on the Panasonic S5 Mark II is the increased resolution of the electronic viewfinder. The new EVF has a resolution of 3.6 million dots over the original S5, which had a 2.36 million dot count. This 1.3 million or so dot bump in resolution has a few advantages. Firstly, the shooting experience will be improved for both photo and video shooters. Additionally, the increased resolution will make critical manual focus far easier when using the EVF. Lastly, the photos and videos will look sharper when the camera is in standard playback mode. The next upgrade over the original Panasonic S5 is the LUMIX S5 Mark II now has a set of matching UHS-2 SD card slots. This matching second slot on the S5 Mark II can allow the camera to write to each card at exactly the same speed. This can be invaluable if you're running your dual card setup in backup mode. The last major upgrade with the body design is in relation to the USB-C port on the side of the camera. The Panasonic S5 Mark II can now be powered or charged using a USB-C PD power supply. While you could charge the battery on the previous model, you couldn't run the camera indefinitely with USB-C PD power. This is a welcomed addition, and it's what I'm using right now to power the S5 Mark II in the studio while I film this. Let's take a quick look at the menu system and how to navigate it. The great thing about LUMIX cameras is their ability to be used in a way that works for you. You can navigate the menus by using the touchscreen, the dials on the back, the joystick, the top dials, or if you prefer, you can use both hands to get to your favorite options in a flash. You can also easily store your favorite camera features to a custom button. Take this button on the front, for example. By holding it in for about a second, we can map any of the camera's features to that particular button. Let's map the waveform to it. The waveform is a really handy filmmaker's tool for setting correct exposure. Once we have the option selected, just hit the menu set button on the back of the camera, and we can bring up the waveform by simply pressing the button on the front. If you feel like the waveform readout is too large on screen, you can easily resize it. Tap the waveform until it goes yellow and then use these two top dials to resize it accordingly. The LUMIX S5 Mark II also allows you to map pre-existing buttons to any feature within that menu system. This makes it extremely customizable for video shooters and photographers. The Panasonic S5 Mark II has a dedicated S and Q option on the command dial. This is a really great way of storing your favorite slow motion settings, for example. The footage will be slowed down in camera without audio, so it can be placed directly on your project's timeline. If you prefer to have audio, you can also store a custom frame rate mode to the C1, C2, or C3 options on top of the camera and recall them using the command dial. One of the ways I like to use the C1, 2, and 3 is for recalling my favorite settings for different environments. For example, this studio will be set up for C1, the white balance is already set. I've got all of my audio settings and picture profiles set up. I can then take it into another studio or outdoors, and then I've got a secondary profile that I can start recording with. I don't have to manually go through the camera and set it up each time I change locations. This is a really handy feature, especially for content creators like myself, where I might be working in one of two rooms most of the time. Let's talk about the LUMIX Sync app, which connects wirelessly from your phone or tablet to your camera. This app can be used to completely control the functionality of the camera remotely or to transfer files directly to your phone from the camera without needing a computer whatsoever. Additionally, the app can make upgrading your camera's firmware even easier than it already is. If you own one or more S5 Mark II cameras, you can also back up your settings from one camera and load those exact settings onto another. In the studio, where I use multiples of the same camera type, this is a really handy tool for ensuring each camera is set up correctly.